Now, as long as you don't drop it like I did, you can place it where you want it. I really need some decent tweezers. If anyone can suggest some really good tweezers, please let me know in the comment section below. Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts, and I hope you're doing okay. Now, recently I made a video on turtles and I absolutely loved making those turtles. So I wanted to go a little bit further into the ocean and come up with some seahorses. So I've made some seahorse inlays and I'm going to use them in this video. They are available on toonpish.com, but I just wanted to try them because I think they are adorable. So these little guys are so adorable. They come in so many different colours as well. They don't move around a lot, and I found a lot of footage with them just sitting still. But I found some that just show how beautiful they are. So recently I found a way to make some little seahorses, and I am actually now selling these on my website. They come in a pack of 3, and I'm going to use all 3 and later on probably more. They're so exquisite. They're really detailed and they're really thin and shiny. Made with Let's Resin silicone, and I just wanted to try them because I think they're absolutely adorable. I'm going to lay down a bed of resin in this faceted coaster mould. Now, I've had this coaster mould a long time, and we're talking years, probably 5 or 6 years. I absolutely love this mould and they've really lasted. I will link them in the description box below. They come from Etsy. Now, this little guy has lots of indentations, lots of detail of pattern on his body. And if I don't cover that with resin, it will create bubbles. It will gather air. So I've covered him in resin before I plopped him down into the resin that is still wet in the coaster mould. Now, I'm doing this so that the bottom is the front of the piece, but I've made sure the resin is thick enough that he will not touch the base of the mould. I'm going to do exactly the same with this one as well. It's surprising how many places on this mould, considering it's so thin, the air gets trapped. I also did another mould with one exactly the same way, and I'm going to let them cure up for about 4 hours. So I think I actually left these for about 6 hours, and I'm going to be using some interference colours. These are ghost pigments, interference, ethereal, whatever you want to call them, that's what they are. They change colour depending on what colour's behind them. I'm going to randomly put these 4 colours, violet, blue, green, and I think the other one is silver. Yes, it is silver. I'm going to randomly put these colours over the back so that it gives a mottled appearance. But this is kind of an experiment for me as well. I left the silicone inlay in the resin because I don't want these colours to go in the area where the little seahorse is. I'm going to do something different with the seahorse, but we'll get to that. For now, I'm just trying to imitate water. Now, water is all different shades, isn't it? It's all different colours, and it's not the same in every part. So I'm trying to give the impression that it's water. What's my chances? Once I've completely covered it, I'm going over with a really fluffy big makeup brush, and I'm making sure all the area is blended on the back. I blow off the excess. Now, you can see here there's a couple of areas that are pretty odd, and that is because I moved the mould when it was really wet and it creased. So don't do that, people. If your pieces are curing, just leave them where they are. Now, with the other one, I managed not to crease it, and it's still tacky. It's about 6 hours after I poured it. And I'm going around the outside edges of these seahorses with the silver first before I do the mottled effect on the back. I do like ghost pigments. I like the fact that you get a completely different appearance when they've got black behind them, or white or red or other colours. Whatever colour is behind the ghost pigment will change the colour of the pigment. I love that about them. And I am literally just messing up the colours that I put on there. It's quite difficult to blend mica powders when you're colouring items, because the first powder that hits the mould is the one that you will see. Now, if you put a colour behind it, it will change that colour slightly. So that is a way to blend, but it won't necessarily stay there, because the powder needs a sticky surface of some kind to stay. And once the powder's hit the resin that is sticky, it has caused that resin not to be sticky anymore. So it is quite difficult, but hopefully this technique will give a little bit of a different appearance. Again, with the big fluffy makeup brush, I'm going right the way over the back. It should change it slightly, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I blow off the excess away from my work area, and then it's time to take out the seahorses. Now, this resin is still soft. It's not fully cured, and I don't want to make a dent in the piece while I'm taking out the little silicone inlays. So I am trying to be gentle. I need to get myself some decent tweezers. All the tweezers I've got are really terrible. So now I'm going to use the Let's Resin Chameleon pigments in teal and blue. And I'm going to colour in the seahorses in these two colours. Now, ordinarily, when I colour in patterned moulds, I will colour the deepest parts first, so that you can clean off the areas that are raised or higher. But this background has already been coloured, so any mica powder that may spill onto the back won't stay as long as I blow it away. So I know that I'm pretty safe. Once I've put some teal down, I'm going to fill in the places that have not got any colour in with the blue. Now, I'm not a green person, you know that, but teal is pretty much a turquoise colour that I'm willing to use for the sake of the water. And these beautiful little seahorses. Now, while I was making this video and colouring in these little seahorses, it did occur to me that I needed to figure out different ways to use inlays. So straight after filming this video, I filmed the next one, and I used in the seahorses again, but in different ways. So I hope you come back next week and see that one too. It's quite fun, actually. Well, I think so. With the other one, I'm going to use cyan and grape. Now, you know I'm a purple person. I kept thinking these seahorses need purple. I couldn't get away from it, really. So I'm going to use those two colours for the second one. And I think, again, they will complement each other beautifully. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous colours. And it's quite quick too. It's a shame I messed up the background resin though, but it is what it is. I'm not one to give up on a piece, and I think as it's going to be water looking, it really doesn't matter if it's not perfect, does it? Now, I am thinking maybe it needs another colour in there, but I leave it as is, and I'm quite happy with the way both of them look. When I'm happy that I've coloured them all in, then they need a background colour. I'm going to use some 2-part polyurethane resin. It is black in colour, it is quick, it cures in about 40 minutes, and it's ideal for something like this. Absolutely spot on. I love this stuff. So quick. I will put a link in the description box below for the company where I bought these. Now, with the other one, I've decided to try and spruce it up with some velvet colour from this little piggy. Again, link will be in the description box of where I bought this. I'm putting it in 1/2 of the polyurethane before I mix the two so that I can mix it well. Now, I don't know whether this is going to work. I've never tried putting colour into black polyurethane resin before because I'm presuming you're not going to see much of it. But it actually does kind of change the colour slightly. But there was a lot of colour in that. I put an awful lot of mica powder in there. And it's gone kind of a blue colour, and I actually hope that you can see that when it's turned out. But again, won't know until the end, will we? It should still cure in 45 minutes. Definitely see a blue colour in there rather than just plain black. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that one. Now I did leave this till the following day because the resin needed to cure up, not because of the polyurethane. And I'm really excited to see it. Well, this was the one that had the incident where I moved the mould. And you can definitely see patches where it has crumpled, but I still love it. It is actually totally smooth on the front, perfectly formed. Just the background that's very irritating. And this is the one with 2 in with the blue colour. Absolutely gorgeous. Does the blue colour make a difference? Yes, but only very slightly. This is my favourite. This is hands down my favourite. The other one is a better colour, I think, because it's black behind and there's less silver and more purple, but the crumples just annoyed me. So now I'm going to try a different way. I'm using the fast cure Let's resin for this. It cures in half the time of normal 2-part epoxy resin. And hopefully that'll give me a better chance of creating this in 1 day rather than 2. Again, I'm doing exactly the same as I did with the first one and covering the little seahorses before I put them into the clear resin. Same process. It actually works better if you've got it on a silicone mat because you can see and don't have to hold it. The reason I did it on my hand the first time was so that you could see it better. I do prefer doing this kind of thing on the silicone mat, and silicone mats are easy to clear up, aren't they? They're easy to clean. A little bit of isopropyl alcohol and you can clean everything right away. Now, as long as you don't drop it like I did, you can place it where you want it. I really need some decent tweezers. If anyone can suggest some really good tweezers, please let me know in the comment section below. So this is 4 hours later. Now remember, this is fast cure resin. I didn't think twice. I thought it had already cured up, but I didn't realise my eyes are not as good as they are. Clear on clear. You can't see the silicone inlays very well. And I put the tweezers straight into the resin. Even though the resin wasn't sticky anymore, it was still softish. So I thought when I was doing the second one, don't do that, Wendy. Don't stick the tweezers into the resin. Just grab the silicone inlay and take it out. And I did exactly the same to the second one's tail. What am I like? I know this one was the one I dropped and it had some resin on the back. But still. So I figured that because I stuck the tweezers into the resin, I could heat it up a little bit and it might get rid of that nasty gouge. Little did I know that by heating it up, it really melted it. That heat gun, by the way, is Let's Resin heat gun and it blows hot. You can take off wallpaper with that. It really is hot. It's not like my little one that I usually use. That's a bit like a hairdryer. No, it's a little bit more substantial, shall we say, and that was on low setting. So 2 of the seahorses were slightly melted, but that's okay. We can deal with that. At the end of the day, they're in water, so they're not going to look very clear. So again, this is experimental. I decided to use some Let's Resin UV resin, add a little bit of blue dye and fill in the areas of the seahorses with the light blue UV resin. Now I did need to get it into the seahorses without it going everywhere else, so I figured I'd put it into a little needle top bottle. I sacrificed a needle top bottle for this. So I filled the needle top bottle with there was only about 5 ml, I think, of UV resin, and then I could use the needle top to put the UV resin exactly where I wanted it to go in the seahorses. Now in my head, this was going to show up all the detail on the front. That was the way my brain was thinking. I did know, however, that once this was cured, it was not going to sit flat to the rest of the resin. So I had to come up with an idea of colour in the background. Now I did think about putting water slide paper on the back, but as the seahorses were not going to sit flat, the water slide paper wouldn't sit flat. I then thought maybe I could just skim a thin coat of resin on the back to get the water-side paper to work, but that would have meant another day. So I abandoned that idea and decided to go with metal leaf glue instead. This stuff dries in 45 minutes, clear, so I can put anything on the back. If only I'd seen Daniel Cooper's video beforehand. For all those that haven't seen Daniel Cooper's video, apparently if you spray silicone release spray onto cured resin, it creates a sticky surface, and then you can use what colours you want on that surface and it will stick. So as I didn't know that at this point, the glue worked wonders, and I covered it with the chameleon pigments from Let's Resin, and also spilt a load on my worktop, like you do. After I had a good clean up, I decided to do something a little different with these seahorse inlays. I have a hot glue mould that I made a while ago for something else. It's just a hot glue border on top of a ceramic tile. And I decided, as the seahorses fitted in there really nicely, I decided to make a mould from the seahorses so that we could actually make positive instead of negative impressions. So I gave it a good spray with silicone release spray. I think I used a little bit too much actually. And I filled the area with silicone on top of the silicone inlays. So fingers crossed. So about 5 or 6 hours later, I decided to see if I've got a mould from this spare of the moment decision. It came off the tile really easily. Now, could I get the little seahorses out of the silicone? They are both Let's Resin silicone. Well, I was quite surprised how easy that was. I did spray them very liberally with silicone release spray, and it did make the silicone mould a little greasy. However, it worked apart from the tail of the third one, which I could slit out with a cuticle removal, which a lot of mould makers use, by the way. You can use them to clean up edges of moulds really well. I don't know if you've ever seen them on Instagram cleaning up the edges of moulds, but they won't give away what it is they use, and this is what it is. It's a tiny cuticle remover. This is just a cheap one I bought from Amazon. There are nicer ones, and I do have a nice one. I couldn't lay my hands on it though, you know what it's like. But it works really well at cleaning up all the edges of moulds that you create. It does work better with tougher silicone. Softer silicone tends to buckle under it, but tough silicone comes off really easily. So I now have a mould for 3 small seahorses, so I can create the positive as well as a negative. I'm going to back these 2 now cured coaster pieces with, again, black urethane resin for quickness, and because it's already black, it makes life so much easier. And I have a little bit of black urethane left, so I'm going to make a seahorse as well, or 2, in the new mould that I've just created. Now this has not been 24 hours yet. This mould should not really be used for 24 hours, but I figured I wanted to try it, so I'm going for it. The polyurethane, however, is already cured up, so I'm trying to rush it and get it in the mould, but it literally is curing as I'm moving it around. Worth a try though, as it was spare resin with an empty mould. I thought, why not? But yeah, it was a bit messy towards the end there. And you can see in the cup, it's already solid. And then we wait 45 minutes for it to cure. So this was about an hour and a half later. I went off and had some dinner and I left it to cure. Now, even though the mould shouldn't have been used within 24 hours, those little seahorses come out really well. I am so chuffed with those. And that was just a spare of the moment thing, and something you could do as well. As for the coasters, well, I guess These were a bit of a disaster from start to finish, and I don't think I'm going to like the results. And I'm right. I really don't like the results. However, they are what they are, and you can see the beautiful colours in the background, and they kind of look like fossils. What do you reckon? Do they look like fossils? Fossils, I think, is a good terminology for these. The first two were definitely my favourites. I love the way they come out, and the two little ones I made in the mould were, at hands on heart, the pinnacle of this trial. I loved those two little pieces. I kind of wish I'd coloured the mould in before I poured the black polyurethane resin, but I ran out of time. And it was a spare of the moment thing after all. But they're so sweet. If you're still here after 20 minutes and you haven't subscribed already, maybe you would consider doing so. It doesn't cost anything and it does help my channel out. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this one and I hope you've got something out of it. Hopefully I'll have an extra video out this week on Friday, so come back and see me then. Thanks ever so much for watching. Have a great few days. Happy crafting and bye for now.